So hello to everyone. My name is Snežana Andrić, and I want to welcome you on the first webinar Young Ambassadors are going to do in next period. So thank you for joining us. As the main field in which we are working are cultural and creative industries, we wanted to organize this kind of lectures and speak about the effects that the pandemic crisis has on this sector. On these webinars, we will speak about challenges the sector is facing and how it will look like after pandemic. So our speakers are going to be international experts from different fields of creative industries who will share knowledge, expertise, information, and experience with all of us. The first webinar will be focused on the role that design and creativity have in current situation. And our speaker, as all of you know, is Remco van de Craats. He is Dutch designer and the creative director of studio Edhv in Eindhoven in Netherlands. We have met Remco 3 years ago when he was a speaker for KreNItalks conference, and thanks to Embassy of Netherlands, Remco was in niche with his whole team and worked with young creative people in niche on branding the city. Remco is working also on developing innovative concepts for brand identity, and with his team he has done branding process of the city of Eindhoven and Boston. So Remco, thank you very much for answering to our call, and we are very looking forward to hear your story about current situation with creative sector in Netherlands and your view on the importance of creativity in these times. And for all of you who are participating, just one technical detail, you will be mute in order to avoid background sounds, and you can write all your questions for Remco in chat. You can write it in Serbian or English, and I will read it when Remco finished his presentation. So Remco, please, the floor is yours. And let us know what role design played in this pandemic situation.
Well, first of all, thank you for inviting me, and thank you for your introduction. It's an interesting question. I must say that when the whole pandemic started, it was just we heard it in the news. It was in China. There was something coming up. And then we heard it was somewhere in Italy. At that point, we were invited to come to Arizona in the United States for an opening of an exhibition. And we went there with the whole family, so me and my 3 kids and my girlfriend. And we spent there, 3 weeks in the United States. And in that time that we were there, the whole world kind of changed, you know, like when we returned to the Netherlands, the flights, just the day after that we returned, the flights everywhere stopped. So it was kind of scary, and also to be there. How do you say, like we were also a few days in New York, so it was pretty scary. But so when I was invited for this conference, I thought it would be nice to tell you something about what we've been working on over the last 10 years. I think this is the moment I started my presentation, right? Let me see if I can start it. Do you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. Can I go to full screen? Hang on just a sec.
Yes.
Okay, you guys still here?
Yes.
So just to introduce a bit what we did. Of course, we as a studio, sorry, I have to go back to the first slide. We as a studio, we call ourselves architects of identity. And as a design studio, we are mostly concerned with identity design, and it involves a lot of strategy. And the past 10 years, no, like 15 years, we already run the studio. And I must say, during this pandemic, we as a team, we are not so much affected because we have a lot of work going on, which is long-term projects. So that's nice. But I see in the meantime, I see a lot of creatives, a lot of designers struggling because from one day to the next, they are just out of work. But just to tell a bit who we are, where we come from, and I would like also to show you some of the works we've done the past 10 years, because we've been playing around with this topic of like this pandemic not in a direct way, but in an indirect way. And I think it would be nice to tell you a bit about it. So our studio basically is it exists of 10 people, it's 10 designers. And we have this big warehouse next to the railroad station. This is our kind of creative hotspot, which is totally empty now because no one is working there. We are all working from home. So we really miss that physical contact with the works, but it's also amazing how fast we adapt to the new situation. Here you can see a bit of the infographic, how can I say, the studio structure. So because we are a bit of schizophrenic, because on one side we have the architects of identity, which is where we do basically the big commercial projects, identity design, we like city branding and that kind of stuff. But on the other side, there's Dutch and Virtuals. And Dutch and Virtuals is a kind of our vision department. And there we play around with vision. And for the last 10 years, we've been playing around with a lot of topics, social topics, like climate change, religion, sustainability, energy transition, that kind of stuff. And I just want to go talk you through a lot of these items because, in a sense, a lot of these exhibitions address the topics that we're dealing with right now. So first of all, in this case, the reason I'm invited to do this talk is the Corona pandemic. And that reminded me of an exhibition we did 9 years ago. Europe was dealing with the Edhv bacteria. I don't know if anyone remembers this, but it was a bacteria that was found in cucumbers. So, and people died from it. So no one dared to touch cucumbers, and as a effect of that, the whole food chain kind of collapsed. So the whole production of vegetables, no one dared to eat any salad anymore. And that led to us it was a first kind of realization, like, oh my God, we're like really vulnerable. Everything that we take for granted every day is suddenly all questionable. And the same thing actually happened because of this coronavirus. Here, this is just an overview of this exhibition. It's all on sheer legs because the exhibition was called Untouchable, and it kind of dived into the subject of what if design is so dangerous you can't touch it, or so fragile you can't touch it, or so obscure you can't touch it. So we played with it. With that subject. We also played with dangerous materials or with the carbon. So it kind of played around, or sometimes it played with the balance or with leftover materials. To just give you an overview of what kind of projects we did around that. So this is from a collective of designers, huh? Not just us. But we as Edhv, we participated in this exhibition, and we tried to create, to emphasize on how vulnerable we can be. We tried to create the most vulnerable image we could think of, and that was an ash image. If you burn something, it leaves an ash image, and it's really fragile. And this was a poster that if you touch it with a spark, it starts glowing away and it totally burns. So that was the first kind of thing that we reacted to, like to this bacteria, and now we're dealing with a virus. So I see kind of a parallel. And the other thing that we noticed is that there was, of course, a big recession. And of course, right now we are dealing with the same thing. Of course, now it's all about the coronavirus and how we can contain it. But in the meantime, this lockdown will cause a severe economical recession. And now everyone is still in, how do you say, like dealing with the daily issues. But if this takes a long time, things can get really ugly, especially when the survival mode of all kind of people will start to kick in, you know, like the economical survival mode. So there's some awareness you really need to have there, because it can lead to conflict. And conflict was also the title of the exhibition we did a year after that, after the Untouchable. And conflict was in the time that there was a lot of conflicts in the world, a lot of civil wars, a lot of revolting going on. So there was very much conflict going on, and we kind of played with the theme of conflicts in design, because designers, as a creative, you also have conflicts, like what choices do I make, for which client do I work, and what is the best way to produce it. So all these conflicts we kind of played around with in this exhibition, and the exhibition setup was also kind of made you like feel left out, you know, like it's all closed and you have to go in. And what we did as a studio for that exhibition, we created these tools where we worked with we overprinted the wood with the metal, and over that we printed with acid. So the stool started oxidizing. It's a conflicting material. So that kind of way how we reacted to this whole theme of conflict. But an interesting thing we learned from that exhibition is that when the world is in conflict, because it was very all over the place, people are kind of close themselves up off for that subject. So if you want to bring a message, to confront them with conflict is not the way to go. That's what a famous trend watcher visited our show, and she pointed out to us, like, yeah, I like the show, but the title is wrong. So we quickly learned from that, and for the next show we changed it, and we called it, it was basically the same topic, but we called it Happy Future. This was also because of that year that Pharrell Williams had this huge summer hit, Happy, because it was a year with a lot of conflict in the world, and in the same time he had the song Happy, and it became a huge hit. So it's basically proved to us that in times of despair, people want to have positive news. So what we learned from this, that if you want to change something in a world which is quickly deteriorating because of a coronavirus, for instance, you need to spread the message with positivity. You need to keep positive in this situation. So that for that exhibition, we played around with code. It had something to do with routing. It's a complex project. I'm not going too deep into that. But after this conflict, and I think we are dealing with the same situation right now, there will be a big reset, because I think everyone is starting to become aware that this situation might last for a while, and I've seen some articles that some institutes expected to last for maybe 3 to 5 years, and maybe not go away entirely. So in a way, we need to reset society in a way, like what's happening now. Like people have, from one day to the next, they have to kind of work from home. But this big reset will also continue in the sense that you notice that a lot of, because of this pandemic, a lot of things we normally do are actually not necessary, because in my profession, I have a lot of appointments. I go all over the place, meet people. I travel a lot, but if I travel and have an appointment in Amsterdam, it takes me at least 2.5 hours to go there for a 1-hour appointment and 2.5 hours to go back again. And now I just do it by Teams or Skype or Zoom, whatever. So suddenly you kind of make these changes a bit more forced, of course, but suddenly you notice like, oh, it's not so, a lot of things that we do are basically not super necessary. So it also kind of cleans up our way of working. And I think a lot of things will happen in that sense. There will be more big resets. And there were a few shows that also played with that themes that we did. This was a show, it was called Reevaluate. This was a direct consequence of the economical crisis in 2009. And there we said like, okay, if economy collapse, what is truly valuable? And we worked with artisan studios and with crafts workshops, and kind of worked with these kind of very earthy materials, you know, like resources that we have, like clay, like metals, like this works with aluminum, this works with the ceramics. But it's kind of a lot of things that we have lost because of our whole consumer industry. Nowadays, everything is ruled by plastics. So we lost a lot of knowledge about all this kind of valuable craft and materials. And this is the work we did. For that, we did by computer coding, we created patterns for textiles. Another work that also belongs in that direction is like we have to rethink how we produce. And it's also part of a big reset. Like, I mean, we have the Corona crisis, but there is a much bigger trouble ahead with the climate change. So basically, the Corona virus is just a kind of a signal, like, hey guys, there's something really going wrong. It is a direct consequence of globalization. Everything is connected these days, so it's logical that a virus can easily spread all over the world. So this is just a warning. But in the same time, we are dealing also with a lot of other bigger issues. And I think in that sense, coronavirus is just a result. And but to prevent that kind of stuff to happen, you need to take away the source, and so not just prevent the symptoms, but also look at why is it possible that a virus like that can spread all over the world that fast. It will be difficult topics, but that's the thing we have to deal with. This was an exhibition called Harvest, and it was directly a consequence of like that we kind of need to realize that we have built up a system where we overproduce and then see what we can sell. And basically our whole economic is built on that kind of thing. Like we overproduce, we see what we can sell, and in the same time we totally, how do you say, like we ruin the planet by doing this. And basically we say we should return that we produce for what we need. So like to keep these lines short, like just produce what you need. If I go into all these projects, it's a bit too much time consuming, but all these projects are dealing with it. But what we did for this exhibition was the Ice Light. It was actually the second edition. Like I think I have a video that we can see. Basically, what we took here is we said like, okay, we have solar power, so you can basically generate energy. But if everyone starts generating energy, the whole system behind the energy consumption will kind of collapse. But so that means that you need to find self-sufficient ways of generating energy and also storing energy. And this was kind of playing around with that idea. And this shows you a little video. Basically, what you can do is you can store your energy in ice. This is a block of ice. And it's placed on a block of aluminum. And the cold from the ice goes into the aluminum, and that generates energy. And it's enough to power a light. So it's a very symbolical object showing storing energy that emits light. And it also shows a bit on the cyclic process of like when it melts, you can refreeze the ice with the solar panels. It was also part of this exhibition, which was dealing with the energy transition, that we need to look for other ways of energy. So, and another thing is that after this big reset, there will be a fundamental change. I mean, this is all my thoughts on this topic. Like, I wish there will be fundamental change. And also, I think this coronavirus will make us aware that we need to do some things fundamentally different. Just a few exhibitions that dealt with that subject was also this exhibition, where we showed these kind of pillars which were falling over. It kind of refers to kind of a collapsing system. And this exhibition was called Advanced Relics, and it was in the year that there was a lot of things worldwide. There was a lot of conflicts because of religion. We thought like maybe it's interesting as designers that we can design new ways of worshipping. For that show, we did the ceramic symphony, and this is a kind of clay robot, and it produces tiles. Just to show you. What I can tell you about this, that this project evolved from inspiration from a day that I was playing with my son on the beach, and I was mesmerized by how he was looking at all these ripples at the beach, you know, like, and this kind of inspired me to come up with this crazy tile machine. Basically is trying to capture the beauty of nature in something in a kind of a lo-fi technological way. And then this was a reaction on our consumption consumption society at the moment. Everything is built out of fast food, takeaway, easy to go mentality. And this show kind of represents this the scenery is basically this kind of a pyramids on this, that are sinking into the ocean, and it's built out of mirrors. So basically it's the society, but the society is us. And amongst that is projects that we did. And one of our projects was inspired by urban mining. And these are the tables we created. These are basically two servers. But servers are always hidden in kind of this dark rooms in companies, and the rate that they change these is amazingly high. Like a service like every 2-year life, and then there's faster service, so they change this already and they go into the shredder. So basically, it's a very polluting way of using technology, and also the way we kind of societal neglect it, ignore it. Like we refer to it like the internet or the virtual world or the cloud, but we never talk about something physical. But basically it's just data centers sucking up a lot of energy, refreshing these servers every 2 years, throwing in the shredder, producing a lot of waste materials, using very expensive resources. So that's why we thought, let's make a very daily object out of it. So this is a kind of coffee table. So it's back again in the middle of our room, and we can look at it, you know, as a kind of relic. And then this goes into the importance of creativity, especially in times like this, where I think creativity is very, very important. Very, very much also local creativity, because it's especially the creativity and the creative power and the creative dynamics is what makes us figure a way out of this situation. This was an exhibition called Fundamentals, and it dived into the source of inspiration. So we asked like 40 designers to collect their inspirational objects that they have around in their studios. And here is kind of mappings that, if you look at these objects, you kind of can pinpoint the mentality of the designer. So we kind of call them names, like you see on the left, the purist, the brutalist, the anthropologist, the remixers, the workers, the technicians. They have their own kind of sources of inspirational objects. And it's really nice to see that these different flavors of designers, if they mingle, they can do amazing stuff. And I think it's very important also to value creativity in that sense. There's a few more, the detailers, the twiners, the alchemists. And then as a last show, I wanted to show that the one we did recently is called The Circle, because one of the things I find very important in these days, the circle stands as a symbol of unity and perfection. And I think in a time of a crisis this scale, we need to think about our unity. I think people should work together and figure a way out of this. This is the work we did for that. It's a silver circle where we recycled antiques. So basically, to top it all off, like as a final statement, like I think creativity is a very fundamental value because it's creativity that will enable us to adapt. I don't think creativity will solve a coronavirus or corona pandemic, but it will the fact that we are creative as human beings, we will be able to adapt. I think that's my final slide in this sense. I'm not sure how much time I wasted on this.
You're just in perfect timing.
Okay, that's great.
Okay, yeah. So thank you very much for this really great presentation of all the projects that you have done and that can really relate to the current situation. And actually, you answer all our questions that we all maybe had, but just I want to say once again to all of you who are listening us today that you can write your questions in chat, and then we will read it to Remco. So please join us in this discussion. And I had one question that. Maybe these are the times when, yes, we all know the borders are closed, but is there cooperation, is there solidarity between the designers from different countries? So are you still cooperating with some colleagues from different countries, or how is the situation now?
I think at the moment, what I noticed among my colleagues is that there's everyone is still assessing the damage. Like for some it's like really immediate, but for some it's not so immediate in a way. So we kind of keep an eye on each other. We kind of, you know, we know a lot of people here in our network, and so what we hear is like, of course, a lot of projects get cancelled, and I mean, on the short term, I think people will figure something out, but on the long term, it will be a gigantic problem. So I think this really deep recession is inevitable. And what worries me a bit is like not the solidarity. Sorry, I'll end my screen.
Yeah, it's okay now.
I know I don't see myself. Here. Right now, I think right now there's a lot of solidarity, but but what you see is that change, chains collapse. You know, like there's a lot of companies around, but some will probably go bankrupt. So the chains they kind of get broken, and that will kind of has to resettle again. So a lot of things will change. We still have no clue how big the change will be. Like for us, like we have a lot of strategic projects going on, but a lot of people who, for instance, who work in the event business or in interior design, all these things just get cancelled. They are out of work. And the government, of course, they support. So there's all kind of regulations that you can apply to in order to keep your personnel paid and stuff like that. But I don't know how long that's going to last. So I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, this is the situation in almost all countries. And is there some lessons that you can say to all the designers, so what they can learn from the current situation and how to prepare themselves for the next period? Because we are all aware that this will not just end, that we maybe will need to learn how to live with this virus. So
yeah.
how to prepare themselves.
Yeah, the thing is that what I suspect is that that there will be a big chance for local entrepreneurship again. So I think the law we were so used to everything globalized that we kind of became unaware how much local quality we have lost. And of course, everyone is basically aware of it, but if you see that how the economy functions, I think there is still a lot of people are buying trash, cheap trash, and they by buying that kind of undermine the quality of local crafts or local initiatives. And I'm hoping that because now we kind of basically forced again to really thinking local again, and that will last for a while. So I think right now is a big chance to really get organized locally and start up reinventing how things work. Just I think there will be here in Eindhoven. There's also a lot of initiatives starting up now. Like a lot of things are because of the Dutch Design Week, one of the big design events. It will get cancelled, but I think it will have a digital version. But I also hear that a lot of people are working on knowledge initiatives, so that they're not spending their energy on products now, but on knowledge, like sharing knowledge, accumulating knowledge. So I think it's also kind of it also will lead to this kind of reset. Like otherwise, you're always like working on product. Now you kind of have a kind of sabbatical where you can read a book, and gain knowledge and share knowledge, and then find a new kind of cooperations. And from that, there will emerge new stuff. But I don't know what it will be. But I'm sure there will be a lot of new stuff.
And when you spoke about the local potential, so as you were doing with your team the branding of the city of Eindhoven, so
yes.
Do you think that something in the process of branding the city will change? And do you think that if you will do this now, will something be different?
Yeah, because what we notice now that this week I was involved in I was invited in a kind of a think tank for the city, because the whole inner city is of course empty now. All shops are closed, all restaurants are closed, all bars are closed, and now now they kind of realize that it will last quite long. So there will be a lot of bankruptcies in the city. So they now address the creatives to come up with ideas. So I'm now in this kind of think tank to come up with ideas on how to start up the city again. On the other side, especially the city branding, of course, they also they were always branding the city because there is, of course, a need for tourism to come in. But that whole thing now stopped because there's no flights, there's no hotels are not booked, borders are closed. So the whole tourism thing is just gone, you know. So there's almost no use now for city marketing or city branding. So but also they are kind of rebounding from this, you know, like they're also thinking in different ways now. Everyone is rethinking their position right now. So everything is now moving, which is in a way great because a lot of things were not moving enough.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So we have one question in the chat about your future plans. So are your plans for future exhibitions focused on these current happenings, or maybe you have some other plans?
Well, basically, we know now that we were actually working on a few shows and they all got cancelled. One was supposed to be in New York. One was in Eindhoven for the Dutch Design Week. But because these cancellations, we are now working on also on setting up kind of a field lab, like an academy. So what we want to do is a kind of a summer school kind of project where we will kind of bring in people from all over the world, hopefully, when it allows it, because we really believe in physical meetings. I think physical meetings will become more luxurious in the future because of this whole thing. But I think the physical meetings are really important. But this group of Dutch Virtuals is about 70 designers. So we have a lot of teachers in a way. So we said like, okay, then we will not do an exhibition. So we will do an academy. We will bring in people to educate on design. And from there, maybe even select new people to join the collective. And from there, when everything normalizes again, when we have new shows, we at least have also new people to show.
And do you think that the online exhibitions are sustainable, and in which way they can be sustainable in the future?
Excuse me?
For the online exhibitions, do you think that they can be sustainable in the future?
Yeah, well, I had a question before because someone asked me that they come up with an initiative, and right now, like basically everyone is jumping online. So there will be so much initiatives that I think they will all eat each other, if you know what I mean. There will be too much. So I think it's I think what's interesting is that we need to redesign physical meetings. Because that's what we will be missing in the end. Because I don't know about you guys, but I'm now working for like 1.5 months from home. I really miss my team, you know. I miss that physical contact. I mean, online you can go to a certain level, but not to that detailed level and that kind of communication level where you kind of understand each other on a deeper level. So we really need to rethink that. And basically, and in fact. What positively surprised me is how easy it is to keep in touch with everyone, and how easy it is to have meetings with people. But I think for me personally, my focus will be in the physical domain, not on the online domain.
Okay. We have another question in chat. So, do you think that this will bring opportunities for inventions, for example, speculative design work,
Yeah,
things that were futuristic before maybe now are needed?
I think that's very much so because all the shows that I just showed you, that was all speculative. So and at that point, everyone was looking at these shows, and they were, of course, we had always a lot of good critiques about the show, like everyone liked it and loved the story, but we were never able to earn money from that. So it was always, you know, like it's basically more, it's more like research and developing vision. But by doing this, you kind of inspire people to see things differently. So basically, you inspire change, and I think that's very important to happen. And just to have the ice slide that I showed you, it was from a show called Power Play, and it was about the energy transition. And at that point, we had a client visiting the show, and he looked at all these topics about the energy transition. And this client was they had a lot of holiday parks, and for them, energy was a kind of economical model to earn money because it's kind of it was kind of how do you say, like um, like a membership into the electricity. So he said, like, okay, that's interesting because so you think that it will not be sustainable for the long run? I said, yeah, it will totally change, and that made them decide to develop um, energy neutral holiday homes because they said, okay, we're going to lose that anyway, so why do not develop it energy neutral and take the lead in that kind of change? So that's kind of the change you kind of can spark, and I think that's really important. So speculative design is really important, but very hard to monetize.
And the technologies like virtual reality, and they be maybe some our future
Yeah.
reality?
Well, the thing is, like, what's of course very interesting that the whole online technology, it will of course leap because it will make a big leap forward. You know, like there will be, and I think it will push a lot of online techniques into a domain where it actually becomes functional, and it will, and in the end, I think these two worlds will merge. So the physical world and the online world, it will merge. And I think especially techniques like virtual reality, or how do you call this these days, where it's merged into each other. I think that kind of techniques will of course really make big leaps now. I also found it really interesting that the Netflix company gained like so many new members because of this whole crisis. So they make a lot of money on it. It's really crazy to see.
It's not crisis to everyone.
Yeah. It's not crisis for everyone. That's also interesting.
Yeah. Okay, we have another, I think the last question. Spanish flu reshaped the design of living spaces and apartments. And do you think that exactly this situation will affect our living or public spaces? Does our apartment or house answer our needs in this area? And they give the example, the Craats project for the circular park, which by its design not allow a lot of visitors at small place.
Well, that's an interesting topic. I think the whole world is dealing with that question right now. Like, how do you restart a city? Like, for instance, how can we cannot prevent? We cannot say like we will not have any events for the next 5 or 10 years. It's not possible. You want to have events where there's a lot of people. So um, I think for the temporary solution, what we notice also here in the Netherlands that people are talking about the 1.5 meter society. I don't know if that phrase is being coined there as well, but the 1.5 meter society, where there's especially in the interior design, offices need to kind of rearrange where they can place like people further apart. We are also going to do this in next week. And also, for instance, the theaters and the movies and places like that all have to kind of limit the amount of seats. But yeah, of course, you get totally different economical models. So everything has to be reinvented. So I'm really curious how will that evolve? You know, I think no one really has the clear answer to that. But what I said previously, I think it's very much important that we kind of understand what caused the whole thing. Like it's a virus, which it can come from any place, but the fact that it's all over the world now is because we've been connected. We are like super connected these days, and I think that will change, because that's the only way you can kind of prevent these kind of catastrophes from happening again. Actually, it surprised me that it didn't happen anytime sooner. It was not the only virus around them.
Okay, so and for the end, just a short message to the young designers. So what will be your message for them?
Yeah, well, now I would like to say that I'm in the creative business for like, what is it, 30 years maybe. And it's always difficult to explain the value of creativity. But I think really in these times, creativity is very important. And what is very important also is to get organized, to stick together and set up initiatives and look around, you know, look for possibilities. There's plenty of possibilities always. And I think, like, you know, I always say, like, creativity is that what makes us adapt to situations. And we're now in this situation, so we will adapt. So yeah, I don't know. My message would be stick together.
But to the 2 meters.
yeah, not too close, but stick together.
Okay, so thank you very much, Remco. Really, it was an amazing presentation, and I'm sure that we all share the same value of creativity, and we believe all in creativity, that it can maybe not fight coronavirus, but it can really save our lives. So thank you for this great inspiration that you give to all of us, and thank you to all of you who were participating in this webinar. So we are really sure that you have enjoyed. So just short information that the next webinar will be next Thursday, 30th April at 6 p.m. And the topic will be digital marketing as a force for good. And our speaker will be Christina Forster. She is digital marketing expert from Vienna. So tomorrow you will have the more information on the social media channels of Young Ambassadors. So thanks to everyone. Stay home, stay safe, and stay creative. And hope to see you soon online and offline.
Yep.
Thank you very much. Bye bye.
Thank you.
Bye.